red, blue, purple light. Friends, red, blue, purple light. Friends, facts, red, blue, purple light. Friends, red and blue, purple light. Friends, facts, you can get to know the ledger, sacrilegious Sunday to Melanin Monday. You can get to know the ledger, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road, you better stay on your toes. I was till the land, focused on the ego. Then I open my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah, we gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts, we in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts, peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light to the family. Peace, love and light to the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.
Peace, peace, peace to the universe. Peace to you and yours. Peace to you and yours. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Melanin Mondays. You are now rocking with the best. Yes, this is your host for the evening, Brother Red Pillar, ladies and gentlemen. And that song that you just heard, that is the Facts remix from the 44 Tops. Shout out to the 44 Tops. Shout out to the Facts remix. Peace, love, and light to everybody in the building. How y'all doing on this beautiful Monday and whatnot? Late night Melanin Mondays. We gonna try to not be here for 3 hours. You know what I'm talking about? Shout out to the 3 hour shows though. Shout out to the 3 hour shows. You know, those come in handy when you're traveling. You know that? All of my truck drivers can attest. All of my Uber drivers and my Lyft drivers, they let me know about those 3 hour shows. They say it gets them through the gig. Hold on. But yeah, man. Shout out to everybody. I wasn't gonna do the show tonight. I was gonna do Melanin Tuesdays, but it's a lot of shit already stacked up on a Tuesday. So I was like, let me get this Melanin Monday out the way. I kind of had a lot of things on my plate. I was at the bookstore today shooting content. Shout out to the bookstore. Shout out to Bookstore Gallery and whatnot. And shout out to the whole team over there. We were definitely putting in some work. And then I had to do some other things. So I was, time is time. Like I said the other day, ever since daylight savings time, it's been that hour that they took. They literally, I haven't found that hour. I haven't gotten that hour back. I've been looking for it, but that shit is kind of like they got that. Somebody got that hour, and they doing things with it. So I've been trying to catch up, but time been going fast. You know what I'm talking about? Yo, shout out to Abundance Child. If I don't want to forget Abundance Child. This is my public birthday shout out to you. I was supposed to be a part of the surprise birthday shout outs, but I didn't get my footage to your daughter in time. So I'm just going to use the platform to give a special shout out. Matter of fact, a 50th birthday shout out to my sister in arms, Abundance Child, who is a little more instrumental in the conscious community than they give her credit. She's very instrumental in the work that she put in for years. I'm talking about Abundance Child was a frontliner when that shit was really about something. When the Moors were in a life and death war on the internet, Abundance Child put a lot of shit on her back. She's a warrior, a warrior goddess. Um, she's an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. I remember like 2006 and 7. She was one of the lead voices in Blog Talk Radio. She was one of the lead voices with the Moors. She was one of the lead voices with Aboriginal Law Firm. She was one of the lead voices for just women inside of this community carving their own lane and whatnot. Abundance Child, shout out to you. And then you went and took the culinary experience to another level, and you tapped into the health and wellness industry and started making your own food. Henceforth, and you created, you launched your own restaurant in Delaware. So that right there, when you did it, that was like monumental, and you've continued to keep the bar raised, drop top, drop squad kitchen, and your daughters as well, incorporating your daughters into your business, like your mother incorporated you into a business. That was honorable. So there's so many great things to say about Abundance Child. A lot of people are not familiar with Abundance Child because she's not on the front lines ever since she started with her business and whatnot. She kind of was focusing on that. If you were privy to capture the time that she was in and you were there as a student, you know that the sister gives it her all. She gives it her all. Very passionate, very you feel her energy, very energetic and whatnot. So shout out to you. Happy birthday to you. May you continue to have many more beautiful birthdays, wonderful birthdays, and you enjoy the presence of your loved ones for many, 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 many moons to come. You know what I mean? So that's that. Let's do the birthday. We did the birthday shout out. Let's do the shout out state to state. Let's see who's in the building and where y'all from, so we could start the show and whatnot. Let's see who's in the building and where y'all from, so we could start the show. Yeah. Yeah. And if y'all live in the Delaware area or the Pennsylvania area and you didn't get a chance to taste her food, make sure you do that. You know what I mean? Make sure you pull up on her. And if she sometimes she does pop-ups at lectures and stuff, so you'll be able to tap in. Fayetteville. Shout out to Fayetteville, North Carolina. You know we coming to North Carolina, right? We got Fort Greene in the building. You know what I'm talking about? We got Belize in the building. 7 Mile, Detroit, Mississippi, Tallahassee, Vegas, Virginia Beach, Dade County, Jersey, Los Angeles, Arizona, VA, all right, Indianapolis. We got the Gullah Geechee in the building. Minneapolis, yeah, I'm talking Saginaw, Michigan, Georgia, Belize, Rome, Georgia, Louisiana, Hollywood, Spartansburg, Cleveland. We got the BX, we got VA, we got Nicaragua. What you talking about? Brownsville, Fort Greene. Huh? Pressure. You know? Home to Edward Casey. That's right. Grenada. Charlotte. 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 We gonna be in your city real soon, Charlotte. We want to see all of y'all that we've been seeing in the chat rooms over the years to pull up. Because when you think about it, right? Once again, we do these IRLs and these pop-ups so people could really get to meet each other that live in the same state. That's one of the reasons why we do it. One of the reasons. Hold on. Ibrahim Traore birthday. Stop playing. Happy birthday to your excellency. You feel me? You see the DNA that Abundance Child has? She has a fearless warrior energy like the good brother Ibrahim Traore. It must they might, I don't know if they was born, I don't know. I don't know if it was the same, but they definitely share a similar type of energy. So I see it. I see it. Cali, Miami, South Jersey, Gwinnett. So yeah, this is about y'all coming to meet each other when we pop out. We want you guys to network, meet each other, pass cards to one another. Hi, I'm this person, I'm doing this, or I want to do this. I have a dream of doing this. I have a vision of doing this. It starts there. It starts there. So Virginia, I mean for so NC, North Kakalaka, we are pulling up Melanin Mondays on Monday, the 31st, in Charlotte on Dr. Carver Boulevard. It's going to be a school, I believe, 2670 Dr. Carver Boulevard. If you want to get the tickets, you can scan the flyer right now for early bird ticket. If you want to get your ticket, scan the QR code for your early bird ticket. Me and Blue Pill and special guests will be in the building. Doors open up at 5 p.m. We have room for vendors. If you're a vendor and you want to get right, we got rooms for vendors. And then on 4/4, we will be in Richmond, Virginia on April the 4th. We will have a pop up and a meet and greet from 5 to 9 p.m. at Charged Up, the flagship store. Charged Up Noah, shout out to Charged Up Noah, Sorbet. We will be at Charged Up flagship store from 5 to 9. And then we will be at the RVA Boombox from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's going to be AA Rashid featuring me and Blue Pill. Also going to have athletics in the building along with other brands and whatnot, other vendors. Make sure you pull up to that. This is going to be more art based, more about music, art, drawings, illustrations, stuff like that. But we will be dropping the science, we will be dropping the bars, the information, but it's going to be infused with music and art. I'm just putting that out there. March Madness, AI Accelerated 4.4, featuring me in Spin City every Friday. Every Friday. March Madness. This is an AI class. All things AI. All things AI. We're dealing with a lot of stuff. Agentic AI, no code, vibe coding, all of that. This whole month we've been building and whatnot. So make sure you sign up for the class. And then on 322, Twin Pillars featuring B Del 1014, Al Kibalon 44, Fear of a Black More Messiah. That's Zoom only. This is a Patreon lecture. You could click on the QR code if you want to be a student in that class. This is going to be a 4 to 5 hour lecture featuring BDL 1014, I'll keep along 44, Blue Pillar 44, Red Pillar 44. It will be a visual presentation. This ain't just going to be us talking. This will be a visual presentation, a lecture. All four of us will be on stage. We will have our own slots and segments. And this is going to be one for the record books, high science. So if you want to get that brain split in science, that you got to go and do your research, pause the video, you know what I mean, buy some books and whatnot to keep up with the conversation, then this right here is it. This is going to be the highest. I mean, think about it. It's not too many people you could put together of this caliber that's going to bring this type of energy and this type of information. So on 322 Saturday, which is an upcoming Saturday, we will be on Zoom. Yeah. So that's just, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. You dig? Oh, 4-4. 4-4 is your birthday. Do I have a link for the Richmond date? Let me pull that up. I do. Let me pull. Give me 1 second. Let me pull that up. How many people saw Rolling Loud this weekend? How many of the people saw Rolling Loud this weekend? You know? And if you find yourself saying, what's Rolling Loud? Then yeah, it's all good. Don't feel out of place. You know what I'm talking about? Don't feel out of place. Rolling Loud is for the youngsters. This is the link right here. Copper Moon. I just dropped it. That's for you. Shout out to all of my Mars in the building. Copper Moon, Dennis the Menace. Shout out to y'all. You need some recommended books to read? Oh, that's easy. Um, that's easy. 322 Skull and Bones Day. Yeah, I know it. It's the Blueprint 322. You know what I'm saying? That's one of those esoteric occult days. So yeah, we'll be dropping on that day. We'll be dropping. 444 came out twice in Ohio lottery, the beginning of March. Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up. My son went a few years ago. You caught some? You saw a clip of the Jello dude? Yeah, I saw that too. I saw YouTube footage and the performances seemed lackluster, even Absol. I don't know, music ain't what it used to be. Yeah. I from watching, because it was 2 days long, Saturday and Sunday. And the last performance of the whole weekend was Playboy Cardi, right? That's who closed out the whole thing. And I definitely came to the conclusion that hip hop or rap music, for that matter, I don't like to say rap music, has the divide is that it's changed. It has changed. It has changed, and there's a clear divide with sounds at this point. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's definitive to me at this point that there is a clear division amongst two age groups, I think, or you know, it's just the youth have a different sound. That's the best way to say it. The youth have a different sound that they've adapted to, and it's gonna be hard for them to adapt. They have a different ear, if that means anything. They've trained themselves to have a different ear. Like they hear different things in the beat that our ears are not hearing. Somebody said autism rap. That's crazy. Um, they have a different ear. You said they need that high tempo sonically. Now I'm not gonna make this stream about rap. Nigga said, "Don't make this about hip hop, please." Nah, we open it up with that, and then we'll take it into somewhere else. But you know, yeah. This shit is not really I don't know. It really has me thinking. Like, and when you think about it, I don't want to tell young people what they should be listening to. Like, I really want to let the younger generation just have what they deem as their shit and not be Mr. On the outside looking in, pointing fingers, trying to tear their shit apart, judging it, meticulously trying to comb through it and applying my ear to a sonic sound that I don't have too much. Um, it's not. You know why it's not that relatable? Because I'm not living through the sort of nihilistic mind state of a teenager. I got children. I found that there's purposes in living and whatnot. I don't feel like life doesn't have any meaning. I'm not a kamikaze type of minded person. I am anti-establishment to a degree. Um, but what I hear when I listen to this new music, they're deconstructing music. Like they're deconstructing music. Like they're responsible for deconstructing music. Keep in mind, music and fashion and some other things go together. They already did it with fashion. They deconstructed fashion. That's where Virgil, that's the Virgil era and certain other eras where you see dudes wearing shirts that are inside out. Kanye West deconstructed fashion. Virgil deconstructed Nikes and whatnot. He deconstructed fashion, right? Gallery department, they're deconstructing fashion. They're throwing paint on shit. They're ripping the shirts and whatnot. You know, the sweatpants inside out. You feel me? They wearing the shirts with the inside out tag. The tag that would be inside the shirt is on the outside of the shirt. It's a deconstruction type of thing. So it carried over into the music. They're stripping the drums. You know, the West Side Gun sound. They deconstructed the boom bap and whatnot. Playboy Cardi and them with this gothic rock fusion sound and whatnot. It's not boom bap hip hop, but it's something new. So I'm all for experimental hip hop because I like new things. You know, I like new things. I'm not into sticking with the same old things, especially when, you know, it's been done to death. I think that the whatever 50 years of hip hop came, that 50 years of a certain sound and whatnot, that shit got done to death. I think that they squeezed as much juice out of that fruit that they could possibly squeeze out of it. There's a few more things that could come along, but for the most part, that shit is over with. You know, that shit is over with. There's a new vibe going on, and the younger generation, they not just have. It's not about the music only. It's a mind state that's going with it. They have a different. They have a mind state that goes along with the fashion because the fashion has. It's a design language with the fashion. The fashion has a story. Some of these artists and whatnot have a story. It might not be exciting to the adults because of you're interested in your artist stories and whatnot, but these artists have stories too. These artists are growing and they're going through phases and they're going through different iterations of themselves and whatnot. Keep in mind, this is about the music for a generation of children who have grown up from the 2000s. These are the Y2K babies. Remember, they grew up through drill. They grew up through drill culture. They grew up through online culture. They grew up through Twitter culture. They're emo. These kids are emo. They're going through some of their favorite artists have already died and whatnot. They got a slew of dead artists, right? The younger generation is they're just different. That's just, you know, I don't want to simplify them because it's not simplified and whatnot, but they have a new sound, they have a new ear, they have a new aesthetic. They're definitely the new misfits, right? They will live that whole generation is going to go through an evolutionary phase. They're going to change, they're going to evolve, they're going to mature, they're going to become more musical and whatnot. You feel me? They might not be that at this moment, but they will eventually. Some of them will rise to the top, like what you call it, cream of the wheat. Rich, I sent brother Rich the Rolling Loud segment, the Rolling Loud segment with Playboy Cardi and them performing, and he was like, "That's the worst performer." That he said he might be the worst performer in all of hip hop. And while I agreed with him, I was like, "You gotta understand. We might be looking at something through different lenses, right? We might be looking at something through different lenses. These kids at Rolling Loud, they're not Kendrick Lamar, they're not Doechii, they're not Tyler the Creator, they're not performance artists. That's not what the SoundCloud rappers are known for. They're not performance artists. They're not on stage to sing a song with no vocal tracks behind them. That's not the type of artist that these are. SoundCloud. It started out with the Florida SoundCloud rapper movement, and it went into mumble rap with Chief Keef and the drill movement. It spilled over into all of these subgenres and whatnot. And a lot of those genres is not about you getting on the stage and rapping like the average rapper. You know, this nigga was literally standing up there and he wasn't rapping, and he was the crowd was rapping for him. You know, the crowd was rapping for him, and he was just doing little murmurs and shit, ad libs and whatnot. But them little niggas don't be rap. They don't. They're not performing. They're more so what they call raging, right? It's turn up music. It's raging. You could rage. You like Travis Scott, head nodding, head banging, mosh pit type of shit. You said brutalist music, right? Brutalist music. So it's mosh pit, emo rock and roll slash, what would you call Travis Scott's genre? What is Travis Scott's genre? And who remembers the futurism movement out of Atlanta? Who remembers, don't you like my eggs in the broccoli? Who remembers the futurism movement out of Atlanta? Music wise, right? I think that was Young LA, um, Extra Sloppy. Rager Music is Travis Scott. Rager Music is Travis Scott, right? Rager Music. Okay. So would you say that Playboy Cardi and them is doing Rager Music? Is the whole Opium? Are they doing Rager Music? Scream rap. Yeah, I would agree. It's like scream rap. They're screaming and shit. You feel me? Like it's giving rock and roll. So now they got the children and whatnot, the little ones, and they're into like screaming rap and mad noises and grunts and weird shit. You know, a rager rap, Trippy Red, Travis Scott. You know, Jay Young LA, yeah. Uh, Opium is like emo, headbanger, rager. Yeah, so that's what you're seeing with some of these kids that are like the new sound and whatnot. It's that, you know, what would Uzi be? What would they call little Uzi? Because I feel like he's kind of like the father of that shit. I think that he was the one that was most lit in the beginning and whatnot. He kind of like he became the poster child for that sound. It's a sound. I can't hear the sound. I must admit I can't hear the sound the same way that like my son might hear the sound. I can't even define the sound in so many words and whatnot. It doesn't really it doesn't click to me. It doesn't I don't do the dance. I don't do the TikTok thing. You know, I'm not on no drugs to kind of like, you know, I guess the drugs is like a Wi-Fi for them. Like if they get on certain drugs, it will connect them to the music a little more and whatnot. But I'm not on that, so I'm not in that mind state, so I don't know what that shit even is like. But I'm looking at it, you know what I mean? Because I'm a connoisseur of the culture, and I have to, if there's a new move, if there's like a huge movement, amongst the youth. The youth, if there's a youth movement and is huge and whatnot, I'm gonna do my investigation. You know, I'm gonna do my investigation. That crowd last night was fucking huge, bro. At Rolling Loud, that shit was humongous. It was humongous. The energy in that bitch was crazy. You know, you said zesty ass rage for. You rather listen to the death metal, you know? It's definitely he highlighted a demonic ritual. Yeah, I didn't see that. What was Castanet doing? And I think that Lil Wayne is definitely the father of that whole sound. It starts on YouTube with the crazy children videos. My 3-year-old gets caught sometimes in an algorithm, and I shit you not, is grunting and mindless noise. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. I definitely watch over my 4-year-old's YouTube consumption and the recommendations. Like he's into Curious George and some other things. And he likes to watch the dinosaurs fight each other. That's his shit. He likes to watch dinosaurs scrapping. You know what I mean? So I make sure that that shit stays right there, and he doesn't venture off into that weird ass YouTube rabbit hole that no parent wants their child to go down. Yeah, Little Wayne and Little B. Thank you. That's the marriage right there. That is exactly the marriage because Little B was the one who came with the cross dressing. He was the one that was weirding shit out, right? So yes, Little B pioneered a whole lot of that shit with these little niggas wearing blouses and all of that fake rock star shit. Um, that's what he's doing. That's what was going on. Little Wayne was the one who came with the conversation. Yeah, my son loves dinosaurs. He got like 30 dinosaurs. Is for him is the dinosaurs. He likes puzzles. He's up to the 100-piece puzzles. He'll put together a puzzle in like 15 minutes without even looking at. He'll look at the box a few times, but he don't need the box. He's putting puzzles together. He got the shit with the the magnetic pieces, like the squares and the rectangles, and he builds like castles and stuff like that. So, you know, the Ride of the Valkyries, that's on the Red Summer album. That's on the Red Summer album. Little B was on Drugs Heavy. Yeah, he was turned out. He was turned out. You know, he was turned out. And he's out of the Bay Area and whatnot. He's the beginning of the YouTube generation because Little B was going viral, and Little B kind of had the internet shit on lock, Twitter and all of that. He was one of the first ones with like one of those dedicated Twitter armies when he was running around on his base guard shit, right? But he was the one who was dressing androgynous. Let's just call it what it is, androgynous. Because they'll see some of these young niggas dressing weird and whatnot and just immediately throw the jacket on them like they're part of the quote unquote LBGT and whatnot. And we just have to be I'm being politically correct by identifying it as androgynous. It's weirdo shit, but it's called androgynous, right? So it's almost like what you saw Prince doing. That's the mentality, just to give you an idea. But all of it speaks of aesthetic nihilism. Aesthetic nihilism. And aesthetic nihilism, or nihilism for that matter, or post nihilism for that matter, has encapsulated the minds of the young youth, the young men and the women to a very, very, very strong degree. Case in point, right? When we talk about nihilism, we speak about Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher. And in his statement that he became famous for, he said that God is dead, right? This was a statement that shook Europe and also the intellectual world when it was made and whatnot. And the statement, God is dead, spoke to the demoralization of Western society, where prior to, like, let's say, the hippie movement and the quote unquote, the counterculture revolution, where white people begin to revolt culturally, and they begin to tap into a lot of things outside of that cookie cutter Pleasantville programming that they were under. Um, God was, the church had a grip on society, morality wise. People were scared to do, they were scared to do a lot of things because they thought that God was watching. They were scared to do a lot of things. They wasn't scared to lynch black folk though, but they were scared to fornicate. They were scared to do drugs. They were scared to do a lot of things in society when they had the programming of a certain degree. When they said God is dead, what they meant was people just don't, they're giving up. They don't care. They don't acknowledge the higher power, the omnipotent, omnipresent power that people have used over the centuries to keep people in line when they feared God. So the lack of the fear of God leads to nihilism. Okay. So now you got people in society where they're like, yo, they're doing all kind of iniquity in the eyes of the Lord. If there was somebody watching us, if there was a group of ancestors judging us, if there was what they call the watchers, if your ancestors looked at you like the Truman Show, then some of them are in for a show. God is dead. God is dead. Niggas don't give a fuck. They're like, yo, God is dead. We're not afraid of the wrath of our higher self. We're not afraid of the wrath of of Charleston Heston. That was who they portrayed God as, and Ben Hur, I believe, or Moses and shit like that. You know, God is dead. That mentality. So when you look at the youth with the upside down cross, and you look at the youth that they gang banging, Q Reeves, peace of the God. What's good with you, my brother? If you want to pull up, feel free to let me know. I'll throw you a link. Um, the aesthetic nihilism that you begin to see in youth culture reflects the mentality of they're not afraid of God. The young generations, the ones that are painting their fingernails black and wearing all black, adapting the opium aesthetics and whatnot, they're not afraid of, they're not running to the church. They're not, you know what I mean? The cross is upside down. You feel me? The cross is upside down. You know, they are anti-establishment. They're drawing outside the lines. They're getting face tats. They're doing a lot of things to not look like they've conformed, right? And that's a good thing. It creates, in my humble opinion, it creates independent thinker, right? It's an avenue. Okay, because avenues lead you to places. They might start there, but that's not to say that's where they're going to end. But for a youth, for somebody of the younger generation who has their own mind and whatnot, it's not intimidated by dogma. I gotta salute that to a degree, because sometimes if it's unchecked, it turns into anarchy. Sometimes when it's unchecked, it turns into Satanism. of a more of like a Crowley type. You feel me? That's not that, yeah, that's sick to me. You know what I mean? That's scary and whatnot. Sometimes it turns into cult like behavior and shit like that. So it's a thin line with the youth movement, because they'll take the nihilism and then they'll go ahead and do fentanyl or ketamine, or they'll become cokeheads, or they'll get on these pills and become addicted and shit like that, or they'll become very violent. You know, a lot of these artists with this rock star persona and whatnot, they've been very misogynistic towards women and whatnot. They've literally carried out that rock star persona, right? It's a rock star persona. Um, some people would say that as a people, we need balance. You know, balance is everything. Ma'at, you know what I mean? So you could find in some of your black emo rock star groups and whatnot a perfect balance. You know, so that's kind of what you see. It's just worth noting. It's an observation. Keep in mind, I'm speaking about youth culture. Once again, one thing about the youth is that they grow up eventually, right? We are privy to witness and to watch and to observe younger generations as they come up. The wisdom that some of us have accrued is beneficial for them as their counselors, to help them see certain things from a perspective and a vantage point that we can see it, because we have the experience and the wisdom and whatnot. So I'm able to observe this youth movement. I'm able to diagnose it and whatnot, but I'm able to sit down with each one of them and have conversations, to whereas, you know, I can relate. It's relatable. I can learn from them, and they can learn from me. I'm very inquisitive. You know what I mean? So when I'm amongst the youth, I'm trying to learn some things. I'm like, yo, what's the new slang? What's on your minds? Like, what are you listening to? What's the new? I want to know what the narrative is with them. I want to know what the narrative is with them, because I gotta be able to, you know, put them in a category in a way. I got to be able to size them up. You know what I mean? I have to be able to diagnose them, to know like what angle can I come in if there's some help that's needed. What angle can I approach if I got to come in as the unk and whatnot, or schoolie and whatnot. You know what I mean? So questions have to be asked. This young generation, they do not like to share information freely with people of the older demographics if they don't deem you as quote unquote trustworthy. You know, if they think that you're going to judge them, if they think that you're going to quote unquote turn all of that thing around, if they think you're going to be a killjoy, they'll withhold sensitive information from you. But if you gain their trust, then you'll have yourself a group of confidants who will share some very intimate thoughts, feelings, memories, experiences, and all type of things. They'll you know, they'll keep it real with you. You know what I mean? They'll keep it real with you. So one of the things that the youth need more than anything is big homies right now. The real big homies, not no not predators, not grown men who are senior citizens who are trying to throw these children's lives away by making them human holsters, right? By making them human holsters, and by making them quote unquote mules and triggermen. Not that. That's not a big homie. You know what I mean? That is not the big homie. They need teachers. They need big brothers. They need uncles. You feel me? They need coaches, because not only is there a war going on outside, this shit is a game. This shit is a game. And they need coaches the same way that we needed coaches when we were 20 and when we were 25 and when we were like 30 and whatnot. We were walking around trying to figure this shit out. Fortunately for me, when I went to 125th Street at 30 years old, that's when I came outside on in Harlem. I was 30. There were coaches out there. There were multiple coaches out there. There was like 3 or 4 of them that stood by me and was able to steer me in the quote unquote direction that I needed to go into. And they sat me down on the bench when I was basically on my Willie Beeman shits. You know, when I was on my Willie Beeman shit. They was like, bro, you got to sit down, man. You got to mature. You can't, you know what I mean? You got to learn from your mistakes. You know, the father thing with Saturn is very, very strong. It is breaking through on all levels of the culture. That's why I like to. I'm a mycelium expert and whatnot. I like to deal with the mycelium network. I like to deal with the underbellies. I like to deal with sometimes the dirt. I don't, I could take it into the ethereal realms and we could go high in the sky and whatnot. But sometimes I like to just deal with the gut biome. You know what I mean? What's going on the underbelly of this shit. So we could properly understand what it is that we're looking at. So we don't have a lost generation, if you would have asked me. And this is me listening to the music, learning about some of these artists and whatnot, following some of these artists' movements, studying that shit. I'm like, nah, these niggas are alive and well. They're just nihilists right now. They made it through C19. Do you know how many people changed their mentality and became nihilistic after watching C19? The church collapsed. The church collapsed. The security of their parents collapsed. The state collapsed. The health industry collapsed. They watched the whole society collapse around them. Then there was some racial violence that was taking place. These niggas went gothic overnight. And then the drill music kind of had its second wind and whatnot. So I literally sat back and watched the youth adapt the mentality, the ones that were wearing the shiesty mask, the ones that were quote unquote getting in, they were just living on some old I'm outside type of life. They adapted a mentality of nihilism because in their minds, they were like, yo, it's kill or be killed. Like there's no insurance, there's no surety on life right now. Imagine what it did to a younger mind versus what it did to people of my age demographics who were probably like, we've been through a lot before. You know what I mean? No. What about the youth? What about like teenagers and whatnot? What about the 18-year-olds, the 15-year-olds, the 13-year-olds, the 10-year-olds? They were left to fend for themselves. Here, put this mask on, go outside, and hope that the invisible bully doesn't snatch you up. What? They saw society collapsing and whatnot. So their mentality is on some Grand Theft Auto. This whole shit is dystopian. It's a video game. They scoring buckets and whatnot. So what is their entertainment? Drill rap. Watching niggas kill each other. Like they see more snuff films at 13, from the ages of 13 to probably 20. They've seen more snuff films than you have in your lifetime. They've seen more people get their brains blown than you have. And you survived through the 90s. You survived through some tough shit and whatnot. But the younger generation, they got the footage. You might have heard about some shit, but they got to see it though. You know what I mean? So they're numbed out. They've been exposed to sex. They've been exposed to all of the industries. We're talking about, this is 2025. So let's just say anybody from 25 down. Because let's just say let's say everybody from 25 down. The Y2Ks. or maybe the niggas born in like 98, 99, but definitely from 2000 and up, they are being exposed to things that are desensitizing them, demoralizing them, and disconnecting them to a degree to whereas they'll see a body and take their phone out and film that shit. Niggas, we would run back in the days. We'd be like, oh shit, what the fuck? And we'll take off and whatnot. They filming it. They're like, man, this is footage. Content, nigga. Content. So kudos to them. What are they being prepared for? We have to be meticulous in the way that we diagnose these younger generations because we have to have a 30-year vision with them, a 20 to 30-year vision. What is eventually going to become of them, right? What how could that be utilized as a positive? Because we know out of all of this chaos, some type of order has to prevail. Out of all of this chaos, some type of order has to prevail. You know? So are they going to be like a warrior class? Are they going to be trained to be like a warrior class? Are they going to be like super soldiers and whatnot? Like, what are they being um groomed for? You know? I would love to have that conversation with some researchers in the near future. I don't want to answer that question by myself. This is something that I would love to have a panel discussion about with some of my contemporaries. You feel me? Now, y'all want to talk about the young women and what they getting into and some of the things that they're willingly doing that they were not doing 30 years ago? You know? The technology is grooming them to be autonomous robots that take orders and don't think. Yes. Yes. The messianic warrior. So the panel discussion that we'll be having this conversation, right, will be on this date right here. I'm going to be speaking about the aesthetic nihilism in fear of a black or more messiah. I'm going to speak about the misquoted, misdirected, the effeminization agenda, the transhumanism agenda, the robotic agenda that they are putting on these children and whatnot. Because to keep it a buck with you, they've already been quote unquote dehumanized and desensitized. They're already robots. Try taking a phone away from a teenager right now as I'm speaking. Go in a room and just snatch that shit. You know, they are the generation, the ones from 2000 all the way to 2025. We call them the Y2K babies. Remember, the preferred demographics is what? 12 to 25. 12 to 25. That's the demographics that everybody is selling to. That's the demographics that the marketers are pitching to. That's the preferred demographics. 12 to 25. Ask any marketer and they will be able to back that up. So from 12 to 25, right? People born from 2000 and on, that's who they are going to be training to be this new generational army. That's who Donald Trump and them are looking at. That's who Donald Trump and them want to militarize. That's who Donald Trump and them want to radicalize and whatnot and bring them into absorb them into their killing machine. So check this out real quick. Look at this. Look at the footage that they just released about the new jail, the mega prison.
I'm a scientist.
And I support more students taking the ACT college admission test.
Because the SAT doesn't.
So this is ICE. This is the USA transporting gang members to El Salvador's mega prison, right? Largest prison in the world. So this is what they got for the gang members. Everybody that's on social media with all that gang shit, right? We'll talk about it in a minute. See that facility?
César Eliseo Sotomayor.
Dude, this is on Donald Trump's Twitter. Elon Musk. Right. So I do agree. This looks like a movie, right? Yeah, fair use, right? This does look like a movie. It does look fake to a degree. It looks very propaganda heavy. However, we are in an administration that is going to be heavy on the propaganda. We are living in a day and age where propaganda is the rule of law now. In this administration with Elon Musk and them, get you don't know what's going to be real anymore. They're going to be doing they're going to be putting out clips like this that look like movies on Donald Trump's Twitter and shit like that. This is straight advertising for people to invest in this quote unquote industrial prison complex, right? So around the same time that video watches, I see the drop $1 million worth of game have Casanova. Casanova is an artist that comes from my neighborhood, Flatbush, Brooklyn. He's a polarizing figure, interesting figure nonetheless. One of these real jail-like niggas, hyper masculine, whatever. He's locked up. He's in the feds, right? They basically have an interview with him behind the wall. So I happened to catch about 20 minutes of the interview when I'm going and doing my research. And in the interview, he spoke about the differences between the feds and the state. And he said one of the tactics that the federal system does is they fly people around to different cities and states that they don't know. They basically get you lost in the system and they'll ship somebody from the East Coast out to Las Vegas and whatnot. So the next phase of punitive punishment with this private industries, private prison industry complex, right? That Donald Trump and them are going to monetize human bodies and human labor and whatnot. They're going to start shipping their slaves over to different third world countries in exchange for their labor force, and probably for in exchange for some of their quote unquote B1 visa citizens and stuff like that. And America is going to foot the bill as well, right? This is going to create super criminals. This is going to create is going to be constitutionally, is going to bring a lot of quote unquote things to the surface about, you know, how about who certain people are who don't have constitutional protection. That this is what's going to be shown, that Negroes, blacks, and coloreds don't have the type of protection that they think they have, because Donald Trump is going to be shipping niggas around like an Amazon package, and they'll begin to see that they can be deported, especially if they're 14th Amendment citizens. If they're slaves, if they get locked up and they go underneath, they could ship your ass to a underground facility, something on the top of a mountain underneath the sea if they wanted to. Once again, for the gang members, the youth that are running around unchecked, with unfettered and whatnot, they're going to have to make the conscious decision moving forward, especially in this administration, because Donald Trump will make the gangs terrorists, and he will deem them the same type of punishment that he just deemed the gang that you just saw. That's MS-13. Those are gangs that you saw coming off that plane, getting their hair shaven and getting driven by all of these processions and whatnot of police cars to this mega prison, you know? So for the young generation that's being encouraged to go rob and steal and carjack and carry guns and all of that shit that's coming through the media, all of that programming, they're literally programming the younger generation to walk themselves into a situation where they're tricking them out of their freedom. Well, yeah. That's yeah. Shit is crazy. So that's why it's very important that we don't kind of turn our backs on the younger generation. They out here bleeding out in these streets. They definitely out. They got them bleeding out. They got them bleeding out. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Remember when they had that whole thing of people boosting out of stores, like robbing stores and whatnot, that whole shoplifting epidemic that was been taking place? Well, that was all a setup as well. They're allowing these stores, they're allowing these things to take place. They're allowing these quote unquote crimes to occur. They have the technology that can identify every single person in those videos. They're going to fill up those quote unquote those private prisons, and they're going to start shipping niggas to different countries and whatnot. They got the tapes, they got the technology. That is Palantir. The company is Palantir underneath Peter Thiel, with the facial recognition and the algorithms and the metrics and all of that. Just wait and see. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. And I'm not speaking it as if I want it to happen, but I read the playbook. You know what I mean? I know what they're about to do. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. The youngsters definitely need a better focus. The youngsters, you know, they deserve to have options. You feel me? They don't have options right now. They deserve to have them though. The people who deserve to be given it to them would be us. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. It would be the parents, because this is a parental intervention that needs to take place. We can't leave it up to social workers. We can't leave it up to pastors. We can't leave it up to athletes. We can't leave it up to rappers. We can't leave it up to quote unquote actors. We can't leave it up to nobody but the parents at this point. It's a red alert. It is emergency. We have to leave it up to I don't give a fuck if you don't have a child or not. You're still a parent. We have to leave it up to the parents to build institutions for them. And the parents have to get into a position of building and getting out the way. You know what I'm talking about? There's some way that the parents could contribute, whether it's monetarily or their labor and whatnot, but they got to learn how to put in work and get out the way, know their position, play that shit, and keep it moving and whatnot. And you know, create a safe environment, create a creative environment, create an environment that is conducive to the growth and development of the minds of these children, because there's too many tools that are available that could capture the attention of the youth, but they don't know that these tools exist because the parents are not presenting it to them as solutions. The parents don't look like they got their shit in fucking order. So it's like it's very hard for parents who are still in survival mode to build anything for children who need to get the fuck out of survival mode and to get into a better mode so they could start seeing the world a little bit differently, right? And once they start seeing the world differently, they'll start moving differently. They're not moving how they're supposed to move because they don't see the world the way that they're supposed to see it. Henceforth, why some of these artists, they'll start out a certain way, they'll see the world in a different, they'll see the world in a different light. Then they'll come back to their artwork or their craft and whatnot, and through the expression in the craft, niggas will be like, yo, they changed. And what? You damn right they changed, nigga. They went around the world twice. So of course they changed. But imagine changing and you got thousands of fans and whatnot, but they didn't go around the world with you. They not eating caviar, my nigga. So they gotta live through you. Rather than them being the ones who say, you know what, I'm gonna get up and do something for myself. I'm gonna boss up for myself. I'm gonna level up. You know what I mean? So kudos to the artists, right? Kudos to the artists that inspire the listeners to get in a bag. Kudos to the artists who kind of like inspire the listeners to be better, to be a boss. I mean, everybody is not that good in their craft to whereas they could even like, you know, sometimes an artist is so ill that they're like virtual signaling to the list, and they could speak to somebody right to their heart and spark them niggas to be something. Like kudos to the artists that could do that, you know, and there are artists that can do that. Kudos to them, but a majority of them are good at sparking motherfuckers to crash out. There's also artists who are very appealing to the monkey brain. There are artists who are appealing to the crash out tendencies that motherfuckers have in their system naturally. And they got these little niggas crashing out. You know, They will convince a nigga to pick up some lean. They will convince a little nigga to pick up a Draco and go crash out. They will convince a nigga to go pick up some pills, even though they know it's not real, and have a OD. They will convince a nigga to go pick up some dog food and get out there and try to sell it and get life. They're very convincing when it comes to shit like that. So we need artists who are going to be convincing on an opposite spectrum of that. Convince these little niggas to learn to read more, convince them to drink water, convince them to stretch, convince them to quote unquote practice semen retention, convince them to learn a trade, convince them to learn the quote unquote AI game. Because when you think about it, the technology is accelerating at such a pace that is becoming very user friendly, right? So if I was 17 years old or 18 years old or 19 years old or 20 or in my early 20s, and I had some time on my hand and, God forbid I had some money saved up, I would say to myself, if I were to study something, if I were to invest in a tuition and whatnot in 2025, I would have to really sit back and think about in 5 years what is still going to be viable. So I don't waste 4 years or 2 years in higher education, you know what I mean? Trying to get certified for some shit that's going to be automated by the time I get out of school. You know what I mean? So literally, we didn't go through some of these choices in life, but the younger generation, the generation of right now, this is the shit that they got to deal with. So I would suggest getting into IT. I would suggest getting in because that's always going to be a good trade. I would suggest getting into some type of programming and developing. You know what I mean? Learn Python, even though there's this whole vibe coding movement going on and you don't know, learn Python, learn the basics and whatnot. I would learn a trade. There's a video. Whew, let me show you this shit. This shit kind of had me like, okay. It was on Shaka Bar's page. There was this sister that she was like, yo, I just want to live off the grid. She said, I need a man who's good with his hands type shit. You know what I mean? She's like, let's just keep it simple. I was like, amen. I was feeling her. I was feeling the message. But check this out. Yeah, skill sets. We need that HVAC. You know what I mean? We need all of that. Check her out.
Knows how to build. Any man out there that has land, preferably by the sea or a river, that knows how to farm, knows how to build a house with his bare hands, that just full of skills, preferably a jack of all trades and a master of them as well. We can spend the next 5 to 6 years having children. I can promise you one baby a year.
Talk to
And we're
me.
just gonna live off the land. We don't need no fancy nothing. I don't need to have my hair done all the time. It's because I'm living in Babylon where I'm have to look like this. But I'm okay with being barefoot and pregnant.
Barefoot.
We can eat ital food, so you don't have to know if I'm enough to cook or not. What is in making some chickpeas and stuff? We can do that. Any man out there that has land, preferably by the sea or a river, that knows how to farm, knows how to build a house with his bare hands,
Bare hands.
that just full of skills, preferably a jack of all trades and a master of them as well. We can spend the next 5 to 6 years having children. I can promise you one baby a year. And we're just gonna live off the land. We don't need no fancy nothing. I don't need to have my hair done all the time. It's because I'm living in Babylon where I'm have to look like this. But I'm okay with being barefoot and pregnant. We can eat ital food, so you don't have to know if I'm enough to cook or not. What is in making some chickpeas and stuff? We can do that. Any man out there that has
Lord
land.
have mercy. Lord God Jesus. it's the mentality for me. You know, it's the mentality. She could be from El Segundo. I don't care where she from. It's the mentality for me. I think this is not every man. I can't speak for every man. I would never attempt to do that for every man. But I think that there's a lot of men who, they like, yo, I could go for that. You know what I mean? Not to say that they want to be simple and whatnot, or they don't want to. It's not like they're trying to escape the trappings of, you know, being in Rome. But like some men want to just live off the land with a woman who is all for that shit. Like you seen Khalees in Africa, and I'm not the biggest Khalees fan, even though, and I don't be up here capping. I'm not Captain America, even though I got the number. And what year was that? 99. Yes, sir. This is before Nas was in the book. I'm talking about. But yeah, she living her life, bro. She in Africa living it up. You know what I'm saying? She making that shit look good. I'm like, go ahead, auntie. I ain't mad at you. You know what I'm talking about? The milkshake is definitely bringing the boys to the yard. I just can't forgive her for that. Was she with Gene Hackman or Bill Murray? She was with one of them old Peckerwoods, and I can't unsee it. You know what I'm talking about? I can't unsee it. Yeah, a lot has changed since 99. Let's just say that. A lot has changed since 99. And heavy flex. now I can't flex out here. You know what I mean? I got people who are waiting for me to slip so they could clip. You know what I'm talking about? So I can't flex like this and know that Blue will come in here and clip me in a minute. You know what I mean? Like no Cappington. Yeah, Himothy. Huh. Oh, she was with Bill Murray? Okay. I'm just trying to be clear. Some from Groundhog Days, right? It wasn't Gene Hackman. Let's be clear. It hit different if it was Gene Hackman. But goddamn, she getting her name back though. I ain't mad at you, Khalees. You are definitely fighting the accusations. You getting your name back. You doing whatever it takes. The thirst trapping has niggas trapped. You got niggas trapped on African Spirit Airlines first flight to fucking Botswana, wherever you at. You know? But then it's the album cover with Nas with the wedding dress. That's what did it for me. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Good. I dodged that one. I dodged it. You know what I mean? She had my nigga looking sad. You know what I mean? Took away the parental rights and all of that. Yeah, we dodged that one. But she looked good from a distance. Yeah, she in Tanzania. God bless her soul. She looked good. She looking good. I would be a hater to try to, to shit on the goddess. She look good. I'm Team Nas, but she looking great. You know? Yeah, he made a whole album about her. You ain't seen her with a girl ever since. This nigga went celibate. He went abstinent. You know what I'm talking about? Nas, he just started doing albums and shit. Like, I will not pop out and claim nothing ever after she did me the way that she did me. She did my nigga dirty. At least she didn't pull a Carmen on his ass, though. You feel me? She could have pulled she could have started, you know what I mean? She could have really dirtied him up by just getting crowd surfed through the industry. He was with Nicki Minaj for a weekend. It was just a weekend. We're not even gonna put that on his record. That don't even go on his jacket. That don't even go on Nas' jacket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's a write-off. That's a fucking write-off. You know what I mean? That's a write-off. That don't even go on his jacket. So they said some shit about they wanted to give the Statue of Liberty back. Like France is asking for the Statue of Liberty back. They trying to take that shit up out of America because they like there's no more liberty out here. You know what I mean? Interesting. Should they get that shit back, or should they get a should they be told some things about themselves? Because the French got some goddamn nerve. The French is getting they ass kicked all up and down Africa and want to talk about the Statue of Liberty. You niggas need to worry about your colonies and leave us alone. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all got some nerve even making a Statue of Liberty, France, and y'all got all of that goddamn, all of them colonies all around the world, not just Africa. You know what I mean? Ain't today St. Patrick's Day? We don't celebrate that shit. You niggas ain't Irish, you Jamaican. Cut it out. We're not celebrating St. Patrick's Day. No disrespect to nobody that got the Irish bloodlines, because it you know, I read the books. It's you know, that Irish shit is us. You know what I mean? I get it. I get it. I understand the whole thing. All I'm saying is the way that they told us the story about St. Patrick, they had niggas capping like he was some good dude. So don't do yourself a favor and don't renew the curse by celebrating this shit. It's almost like you renew your subscription with Apple every month, and you be like, "Damn, where did that charge come from?" Yeah, they're renewing the curse, nigga, while you was asleep. You know, don't go for it. Don't go for it. But France and Africa, yeah, their name is very bad. Their name is very bad. So they got some nerve. They don't need to be asking for nothing from nobody right now. You know what I'm talking about? They got some shit that they need to return. How about that? They got gold bars, gold coins, silver, oil, precious metal, artifacts from all over Africa. Why don't they return that before they start asking for the goddamn Statue of Liberty? Yeah. And it wasn't even the right Statue of Liberty that got sent. So take the white lady back and give us the sister with the locks. Since y'all want to talk crazy and whatnot, give us the melanated Statue of Liberty that y'all was supposed to send us. You know, take that broken down ass the one that y'all have in New York. That shit is broken. Nobody been in visiting that statue for years now. You feel me? That shit is just a lighthouse. So UMG responded to the Drake lawsuit and literally talked to this man like he is a little boy. You know, just another L to add to the Drake folder. I hate talking about it. It really seems and comes across like I have a personal gripe with this man. And I really don't. I just was highlighting a situation that went bad for him a few months ago. And I can't get off the story because the shit's still going bad for him. You know what I mean? What the fuck? I didn't do it. It's not this ain't my work. You know what I'm talking about? I didn't put his ass on the cross. I didn't cook him. He cooked himself. So UMG kind of like shitted on him by filing a motion for dismissal. Now, for the records, I'm not rooting for UMG. I want UMG to be exposed. I'm rooting against Lucian and whatnot. I want that whole music business to fall apart. That I don't have no dog in that race. You know, I'm calling out the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is that when it was working for Drake, he didn't have nothing to say. Now that it's not working for him, he turned into this chatty patty finger pointing type shit. And then he went ahead and did what he did. Now, the reason why a UMG gets the middle finger from me is case in point, Angie Stone. That's evidence number one. Who I shared on the show yesterday with Blue Pill. The stories that are coming out about her untimely demise. She didn't die in the accident, as was what was reported. She died after the accident. She was hit by an 18-wheeler on the side of the road. Okay. She wasn't unalived as a result of the van being in an accident. She was unalive after the accident. Henceforth, why nobody else from the van suffered any fatalities but her. So she was targeted. That's what targeted means. People will try to they'll try to wreck their brain and they'll try to, oh, how did that wait? Listen, I watch enough Netflix and Kill to know when somebody has a drop, when there's a hit on you, when it's not supposed to look like it's a hit, but people get hit, bro. I said it before. If they have, there's a spyware that they put on your phone called Pegasus, right? If they put Pegasus on your phone, they could track you the same way if they put an Apple tag on your car, and the same way that when you order a Lyft or Uber, you could see them driving up to you because their phones are tagged and whatnot. So they have a ways of following somebody and targeting them, to whereas you have people getting shot up in their cars, you have cars getting ran off the road, and all the way to a higher level, you have predator drone attacks on cars that are killing off, quote unquote, targets and whatnot. And how the hell do you think they're finding them? Through their phones, which is a tracking device. I don't have all of that info in front of me, but the truck driver, they said, quit his job and they can't find him. There's been inquiries into the footage because the cameras are front facing on the trucks and whatnot, so there should be dashboard footage. I don't want to see it, but people need clues. They need because the way that when you look at the scene, you could Google it and whatnot. The truck came across the lawn. It wasn't like she was sitting on the highway and a truck didn't see her and mistakenly. No, a truck was on the other side of the highway, came across the divider and hit her. That's crazy. Did you hear about the Houthis shooting a missile at? Yeah, so Donald Trump, right after the blood moon, right? Because this blood moon, and I didn't mention it the day of the I'm going to mention it in the lecture. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the blood moon during the lecture. B Dell did a video on the blood moon as well. B Dell 1014. If you're not subscribed to his channel, please make sure that you are subscribed to his channel. He will be on this show one day this week, along with Al Kibalon. We'll keep you updated as to what the date is. Tentatively, we're looking at Wednesday, right? So if you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so you will get the notification when we pop out. But the blood moon that just passed on the 14th is tied into the quote unquote killing of the red heifers in Jerusalem, right? And in Israel. And is it real? They're going to be sacrificing these red heifers, and it was the blood moon that they were waiting for in order to initiate this quote unquote ritual so they could build what is known as the third temple, which is tied into something that we don't know about as Black people, because one, it's not taught to us in the schools. Two, it's not taught to us in the household. Three, it's not even taught to us when we go to church. And what I'm speaking about is the Messiah, or the Messiah for the Jewish people, right? The Moshiach, right? Very, very important in this whole scheme of things. They have um they have a very zealot like passion to resurrect their Messiah, right? In these days and times, this is biblical prophecy that we're talking about, but this is also prophecy of the Jewish faith about the resurrection of their Messiah. Okay. And then from the European standpoint, it's about the resurrection of the quote unquote the Antichrist and whatnot, pointing to this whole thing about us being in Revelations in the last days. So all of this is tied into that. The red heifers, them going into the Al Aqsa Mosque and whatnot. So the attack on the Houthis is the provocation from Donald Trump, who didn't waste any time after getting into office, showing the world that he is going to continue the genocide of the quote unquote Palestinians at the behest of Is It Real and these global bankers and a bunch of other things. They're utilizing the Palestinians as the cannon fodder for this genocide, but it's a lot bigger than that. It's way bigger than that, because even when the red heifers get sacrificed and this whole thing, the ball starts rolling with this whole thing about building the third temple, is going to trigger the rest of the Muslim world, right? It's not just it's Iran going crazy now. It's a lot of these other Muslim countries that are not compromised. The ones that are compromised, we can't even speak about them. Saudi Arabia is out of here, compromised. Actually, Saudi Arabia was one of the main countries that were at war with the Houthis in Yemen before Is It Real in America jumped in and whatnot. So Trump is doing the dirty work for his Saudi friends and his Israeli friends by going after the Houthis. And the Houthis responded by basically bombing U.S. warships. So right now in the Red Sea, right, which is very indicative to on a geopolitical scale, trade, right? So you have this whole thing with Panama Canal, Gulf of Mexico, all of this shit about the waters and whatnot. But now the Red Sea is heating back up and whatnot. The Red Sea, the crisis in the Red Sea, the piracy in the Red Sea, the quote unquote proxy war in the Red Sea, drone warfare, pirate warfare, missiles being shot. They're basically saying everybody is gang. That's what the Houthis are saying. But you're not just dealing, you're dealing, if you do a little bit of research into the Houthis, you might come across some mythical information on them. That's another thing. Mysticism, mythical information on the Houthis. That would be another thing that we'll be talking about on 322 and whatnot. They're just saying the word Houthis, but they're not giving the context as to who the Houthis are and why it's so hard for them to even defeat this group of people in this quote unquote in the mountains of Yemen, right? Same way that it was very difficult to defeat the Taliban and to defeat these goat herders, right? And these opium herders and these people who are not quote unquote, you know, in the eyes of an American or in the eyes of the Western military machine and whatnot, these people from Afghanistan and Iraq and shit like that, they were not on paper. They didn't appear to be a deem. They didn't deem them as worthy foes. They didn't deem them as worthy foes. These were not. They was like, yo, we supposed to be able to swat these people like a fly. But 11 years later, the motherfuckers got ran up out of there, and they didn't do the type of swatting that they thought that they were gonna do. And that's some of the things that you see taking place in the Middle East. These targets that they supposed to just be able to wipe out, they're having a very hard time wiping these people out. You know, so the president who says that he wants to avoid war, Mr. President of Peace, has already started a proxy war in the Middle East. It's going to spill over into Africa. And yeah, you might be looking at perpetual war. Once one of the conflicts start, it's not, in my humble opinion, there's no indication that it's going to slow down. So that whole area is back on fire. It's going to be vocal point moving forward for the rest of this year. There's going to be a lot of stories coming out of that region, in those areas. And of course, Russia and China is in game. Everything ties back into them. That's in game. So America is moving pieces around in South America, as you saw earlier with the whole El Salvador partnership, putting the criminals from America and the deportees and gang members and cartel members into the super jails. That's that's a little bit of a cooperation on that end. But there's a lot of pieces moving in Latin America to see who's going to be pro-America and who will be pro-China / pro-Russia. That is also taking place in the Caribbean, and that is also taking place in Africa. So, stages are being set the same way that they've been being set for months now. However, with Trump in office, he's just accelerating this quote unquote this war machine. And then the South Africa thing, once again, with Elon and Peter Thiel in the background, they're the ones helping to pull the strings on that. Once again, Peter Thiel, who keeps resurfacing. The more I do research, the deeper I dig, the deeper that I dig. And this is I'm digging into Elon's jacket. I'm doing a little bit of Elon deep diving. The Peter Thiel character keeps coming up. His hands is dirty and so many jars and whatnot. Peter Thiel, who father was a Nazi, born in Germany, moved to South Africa during apartheid era South Africa, then moved out into the Americas, part of the PayPal mafia and the CEO of Palantir and the financial backer, and also the quote unquote, he's not only the financial backer, he's the advisor to JD Vance, the vice president. So he is in the White House. He's basically has a seat in the White House through JD Vance. This is Peter Thiel, a LBGT Jewish billionaire who, on many accounts, according to multiple people in multiple industries, they were like, "Yo, that's the most evilest man that I've met in this business. He's the most conniving. He's Destro from GI. He would be Destro. He's a very, in the background type of person. But Palantir, right, who has heavy government contracts. Palantir, the company Palantir is going to be responsible for Minority Report, pre-crime technology. They're going to have predictive AI, algorithms with predictive AI, where they could basically scan your metrics, your biometrics, your face, and determine if you are going to commit a crime in the future. Palantir, like I said, they're going to use Palantir to go over all of those surveillance tapes where people were robbing those stores, they're grabbing, snatching grabs and all of that. And they're going to round them niggas up the same way that you saw them round that movie that you just saw earlier with the Spanish criminals. They're going to reenact that on multiple occasions. You're going to see Bloods like that, Crips. You're going to see rappers like that and they entourages. You're going to see they're going to do it to drug crews. They're going to do it to rapper crews. They're gonna keep doing that shit because that's the entertainment that the white supremacists need in order to beef up their inferiority complex against the formidable foe, which is the Blackamoor Messiah, who they've decided in this next 4 years, leading into the next 8 years, they're going to eradicate. You know, they're going to make a move on that on the messianic ones. Henceforth, why they have a war against woke. The war against woke is going to mutate in something else. The war against woke, which started out as a culture war, is going to mutate into something else. So yeah, Palantir with the facial recognition, the drones, all of that stuff, they're gonna use that to round up the people, the criminal. They was using that for the PPP roundup. They put all them niggas in jail. You feel me? They was rounding them niggas up with biometric footage, all of the footage at the ATMs and all kind of stuff. They were using Palantir for that. If anybody trades Palantir as a stock, you know how crazy that shit went, how it blew up. Palantir is one of the best performing stocks in the stock market. You know? So something interesting was shared with me today too about Atlanta that I wasn't 100% aware of, and I would pose this to anybody in the audience to do a little bit of more deeper research. Did you know that Atlanta was a city built on top of a city? Did you know that Atlanta was considered to be CENTCOM, right? For anybody in the armed services, did you know that Atlanta was CENTCOM throughout the 80s and the 90s, the same time that they had the Atlanta child murders? And of course, it's the base of the CDC, Center for Disease Control. But Atlanta was CENTCOM, Central Commander. It was Central Command, meaning that you would think that CENTCOM would be in like DC or something. No, it was in Atlanta. And the city that's underneath this city, right? Atlanta is a unique city because it's a city on top of a city. The fiber optics, right? The fiber optics in Atlanta is something that you cannot find in other cities and whatnot. They have a sophisticated fiber optic system in Atlanta, right? And this is that's why this is a tech hub. Atlanta is a tech hub, but Atlanta is not only a tech hub, Atlanta is the leading hub for data centers, right? So right in the hood, right near Wright Street, where the jail is and whatnot, they have one of the biggest data centers in America, right in the middle of the hood. And what is that data center doing? It's collecting your social media. It's collecting your buying habits. That's the data center. The data centers are in the hood, my niggas, and it's in Atlanta of all places. This is ground zero. This is the hub for the data. Austin, Texas for the data, right? These cities are data centers. So think Tyrone. Think the Tyrone movie with Jamie Foxx. This city is a very interesting city. It's a city built on top of a city. That's why you have this whole thing with underground Atlanta and whatnot. They'll show you when you go to underground Atlanta that they'll take you to the underground. Yeah, Equifax headquarters. The feds is the federal bank is in out here. They got the feds out here in Atlanta. It's a lot of shit in Atlanta. Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, all of the big companies, the big tech companies, they all in there. They all in Atlanta. You know? So the idea of them having underground labs and whatnot is it's not far-fetched. This Fort McPherson, where Tyler Perry went and turned into his film studio, right? This whole shit been federal, It's a lot of things going on. So it's like, is it any coincidence that this is the number one trafficking hub? This is the number one sex trafficking hub. This is the number one human organ trafficking hub. This is the number one quote unquote slavery hub, because slavery by another name is human trafficking, but it's slavery. Atlanta's number one for that. The airport as a transportation hub, number one for that. Right? So that whole thing with the Atlanta child murders and whatnot, it has to be looked at with a different type of eye and whatnot. Right? It's one of the most connected cities in the Southeast. Yes, indeed. That's Atlanta for you. Okay. Yeah, all global flights. This is the most busiest airport they say in the world. Right? The first projects and whatnot, and then they tore the majority of them down in 2000. It was a program against blight, and they started tearing all. That's Bowen Homes, Mechanicsville, and all of that shit. But yeah, this was one of the first projects. So the history of Atlanta, I'm going to be exploring more of it. Ras Ben had kind of put me on to Atalanta, which is not Atlanta. It's something else more ancient than Atlanta. It's called Atalanta. So I'm going to be doing more deep diving, and hopefully we'll be able to do like a video essay or some type of history lesson on this very interesting city and whatnot that that Bobby Hemmett talked a lot about. And Bobby Hemmett is from here. He's a Grady baby. And Bobby Hemmett, he opened up this whole thing for those of us who do the exploring and the deep diving in the decoding and whatnot. Tech Wood. Start with the capital. Yeah. So we'll keep y'all updated as to the progress that we begin to make and whatnot. Oh, shout out 111. It's 111. The capital leads to the church. Right. Start with the capital. The capital leads to the church. You know what I'm talking about? So we're gonna, for my researchers that are out there, they hear me building. Let's go ahead and do some independent research, do a little bit of deep research, do some deep diving, and let's put that thing together. Because I remember when they talked about Sherman burning down Atlanta. When Sherman burnt down Atlanta, did he burn down the Atlanta that's built on top of the city, or did he burn down the city that they built on top of? That's the $1 million question that I want to know. When Sherman burnt down Atlanta, did they build the city on top of that frame, or did Sherman burn a city that was built already on top of a city? And what the fuck is the city that they built it on top of? Who was in that city? And what did that city look like? Atlanta used to be called Martinsville. I want to know what that city looked like, because 9 times out of 10, that was a melanated city. The same way that they buried the cities underwater, the same way that they made Oscarville, Lake Lanier, the same way that they grazed and they scorched earthed what was that? Rosewood. You know what I mean? The same thing that they went and did in Wilmington with the massacre, the same thing that they did in Tulsa. It's no different. Savannah, Macon, Augusta, Atlanta. It's no different. These were all melanated towns and whatnot. I seen a map the other day of, was it Detroit? It literally just showed like how they put highways and urban development tore down so many black towns. It don't even make sense, bro. This shit don't even make sense, bro. The things that they did to our communities, our neighborhoods, when people be asking, well, what happened? What the fuck? What happened to our people? Whatever, why did we fall back and why did we lose real estate and da 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 da? Yeah, they use maps, my nigga. They use maps and redlining and they plotted and they threw highways through our highways are trade routes. You know what I mean? They threw highways through our neighborhoods and through our downtowns and shit like that. You know what I'm talking about? They they playing chess, not checkers. But we're gonna do more research on that. I promise you, I shit you not. We're gonna do more research on that. We're gonna do some deep diving on that. But I'm gonna get out of here though, because I do have things that I have to get ready for tomorrow. For my Patreons, I believe that we're gonna be doing a town hall meeting. Tomorrow we got Techno Tuesdays, and then on Wednesday we have the show with Bidel and Al Kibalon. On Friday we have class with our brothers, with my brother Spin City. All right. The homework is up for the students. The homework, class number 2 homework is in the Discord, and it is also on Patreon for my patrons. Charlotte, we will see you March 31st. Be in the building. Melanin Monday IRL. We will be here live. We'll have merch in the building. We'll have food in the building. We'll have music, books, you name it. Pull up. On 4/4, April the 4th, Richmond, Virginia. We will see you at the RVA Boombox. We got A.A. Rashid, Red Pill, and Blue Pill. 4/4. We got a meet and greet from 5 to 9 at my good brother Noah's spot called Charged Up. And then right after that, from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., the RVA Boombox. Pull up to that. You know what I mean? 3/22, which is on Saturday. Blue Pill, Red Pill, Al Kibalon 44, B-Del 1014, Fear of a Blackamoor Messiah. We will be doing deep dives into some of the things that we were talking about tonight, along with a whole slew of other topics. You know how they give it up. Every teacher has their personal teaching style. It's going to flow beautifully. We're going to have a chock full of information. We're going to enlighten you, spark your minds, and open you up for a lot of new thinking going into the new year. This is our New Year's present for the New Year's that is coming up in spring. You know what I mean? I believe it's on the 21st. This is going to be our New Year's present. Happy New Year to everybody in the building. Salute to everybody. Happy New Year's. Make sure y'all make the best of it. We are going to make the best of this time and whatnot, and we're going to be blessing y'all with some food for thought and some gems and whatnot. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave you with the Facts Remix. Peace, love, and light. We will see you very soon. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. We will see you sooner than later. Peace.
Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Facts. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red and blue, purple light, friends. Facts. You can get to know the ledger, sacrilegious Sunday to Melanin Monday. You can get to know the ledger, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was till the land focused on the ego. Then I opened my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah. We gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts. We in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts. Peace. love and light, peace, love. To the family, peace, love and light. To the family, peace, love and light. To the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.